Hello. Did you tell them that's my daughter's? Come on stage, guys. Hi, I'm Eric Furrow, if you don't know me, and I am bringing on stage Tom Werner, the CEO of SunPower, Robert Eckhardt, the Director of Architecture and Renewable Energy Development. And we could just pause with that. That title, you wouldn't have seen that title when you first started at Bed Bath & Beyond, I'm guessing.
No, it's a lot involved as being Director of Architecture and Renewable Energy. The one that actually started the solar program at Bed Bath & Beyond, and interesting enough, I deal with it from start to finish, from due diligence to construction to O&M, and so I'm kind of one-stop shopping in regards to renewable, and handle all the other parts of the business with dealing with lease negotiation, stores getting open, dealing with the prototypes, and making sure all of our concepts, all of our stores and subsidiaries throughout the years get built to a prototype standard.
Great. He seems like a super nice guy, but he can be brutal.
So are you his sales guy for the company?
I wish.
We're partners.
Partners,
I
see. Yeah. So Joel referenced this, but solar really, you can use the word mainstream. You could think about it in inflection point. You've managed a huge amount of growth in your 12 years, by the way. Congratulations for 12 years at a Silicon Valley company. That's in and of itself an accomplishment. But just the amount of growth that you've seen. And you've dealt with what I noticed looking through your stuff, you've got a huge range of customers. I mean, you go from the consumer, you go to the commercial, and you go to the utility scale, and you've got this diversity from a Bed Bath & Beyond to, I don't know if you guys saw Tim Cook's announcement last week, but Apple's not only doing 100% renewable in their California operations, but they're trying to do that in their supply chain in China. That is really audacious, and that is really incredible. But Tom, I guess we'll just start. What problems are you trying to solve for your customers right now?
Well, you're right. I really do have a unique perspective of 12 years in this role. Now, some of the folks on my team have been in solar longer, but in this role I have a unique perspective. And 12 years ago, when I started, I thought, oh my God, this is a huge market. There's 2 gigawatts of installed solar. That's several $1 billion. What a great market, because I came from a startup, didn't have such a big market. The industry will do 60-something gigawatts this year. So it's incredible how much things have changed. When I started, the company was founded 30 years ago by a guy who designed this solar cell. And he designed it to be really efficient, because at the time that he designed it, silicon was really expensive. And so from day one, the idea was to make solar more economical, and then it was sort of, can you get in the range, right? And he designed this solar cell as a complete system, so it's very hard to copy. You can't design the surface of the solar cell with ignoring the back of it simultaneously, so it's designed as a complete system. And it's really innovative. I mean, we've been mass producing this thing for a decade. We made 4 gigawatts of this, and nobody's copied us. And so then what we realized, though, to make solar cost effective was you couldn't just make the solar cell, you had to make the module. And you had to make the module cost effective. And then we realized as the module cost came down, you had to make the whole system. So as you mentioned, we make utility scale, commercial, and residential. So first we attacked utility scale, and we're making very large utility scale systems, up to 25 square miles. Right. And so BOS, balance of systems, the metal, the cabling, the inverters, the electric skid, SCADA, the whole thing, we started to make a power block and take the customized stuff out of the field, the high-value labor out of the field, and move it into the factory. What you're going to see from SunPower today, and I'll do this pretty quickly so we can cover some other things, out at our display is we're doing that same concept that we called Oasis. We're taking that innovation and we're moving it to commercial, and we call it Helix. And every piece of the system is now engineered as a complete system. And I want to just highlight a few of those things. So think about it. You mount panels on the roof. You can mount panels on the roof at a 10-degree tilt with no tools with Helix. So we've made putting the panel on the roof snap in. Now you think, well, is that a big deal? Half of the cost of a system for a commercial system is BOS. So it's a huge deal. Another thing we did is we thought about the cables. So you have a lot of cables. You have cables out modules. They come together, go into a switch box. From the switch box, you have a cable to the inverter. Today, you have an electrician up on the roof with 5 cables. They strip each of the cables, and then they have to manually mount those cables into the switch box and then into the inverter. So what seems kind of obvious now is today with Helix, you plug it into the switch box and you plug it into the inverter. Take all of that custom labor out of the field and move it into the design of the system. We designed a little cable clip that doesn't seem like a big deal. This thing has to last 25 years in the field. And the way the cables are mounted is a big deal because it gets hot and cold up there. And so how we route the cables has been thought through completely. The mounting of the system with the high efficiency panel will give you 72% more energy over the life of the system. The mounting that you'll see out at our display, there's these rubber cable mounts. They're 90% made out of renewable rubber. The factories that the modules are made in are cradle to cradle. You heard Joel reference cradle to cradle. We have cradle to cradle certification in our factories. Then over the course of the time we have together, I'll talk a little bit about the software that's included. Complete redesign, think of the system simultaneously, optimize the whole thing so we can get cost down and quality up simultaneously. Things have changed a lot in 12 years.
Yeah, so you guys really started as a hardware company, and you've been innovating down to the smallest detail to get that scale and to drive the price down, which has obviously been one of the big things around adoption. But as Mark Andreessen says, software is eating the world. So talk a little bit about moving into becoming essentially a software company as well.
Yeah, software is going to change everything here too, and Robert will have a chance to talk about this a little bit. As a customer, Robert asked things of SunPower about how do I know my system's performing, how do I compare my systems, and then a number of other things. And that led us to think of the importance of software integration. And SunPower as a company started making solar cells, then we made the module, then we made systems, then we guaranteed energy, so we did it in the form of PPAs, lease, loan. So we look more and more like an energy company. As we add software, we become an energy company because we have a thing called Energy Link that we designed with Eckhardt, a partner of ours. And what that allows a customer to do is they've made the decision, Robert made the decision of generating solar energy, and of course he wants to know how much am I producing, am I getting my money back that was committed to? So he can get the closed loop and know exactly that, and that's sort of obvious. But he can also look at load. And when you can look at load simultaneous with generation, then you can do some really awesome stuff. The first obvious thing you can do is there's a thing called a demand charge. And you have the peak 15 minutes is what sets the rate that you get charged as a commercial customer in a lot of markets. And what you can do is you can start to change load profiles so that you can eliminate that peak 15-minute charge. Or you could add storage, and then you can really get creative, right? You can store solar energy, you can move your use of solar energy around. And of course, with software, then I can optimize the whole thing. Right. First, we have to walk before we run, so we can do mundane things like prove the payback. And then we'll talk more. Robert can compare facilities, which one's the best performing, which one's highest energy consumption. He can forecast, he can compare to forecast. Software is going to be a huge deal.
Yeah. So it's a good pivot to Robert. So you've been with Bed Bath, I mentioned 1998. Solar since 2006. You've got 1,550 stores in the U.S. and you've got 26 projects.
Correct.
With solar, and it looks like in 4 states, 17.5 megawatts of solar. It's pretty impressive. Let's go back though. Mm-hmm. What were your original goals? How did you guys get into this?
So the original goal was, how do we generate additional savings for the company and also defend against the rising cost of electricity rates? We also were looking at the time at wind and solar, but solar seemed to win out because of the fact that it has a long life expectancy, 25 years or more, and it came with real environmental benefits and energy efficiencies. One of the things is that we will continue to do solar because it makes economical sense. I think one other driving factor back in 2006, when I had presented to the company, let's do solar, and maybe it was just an individual goal of mine. At that time, I was told, putting solar panels on top of a rooftop, you're crazy. You know, you got structural issues, you know, concerns about how water drains off the roof warranty issues, voiding the roof warranty. I can tell you today, of systems that have been in place for at least 5.5 years, none of those issues had any real impact. We've had systems in place that have gone through hurricane force winds to stores in Massachusetts that had record snowfalls this year, and those panels are still up and running. So to all those people that were naysayers that said you can't do it, I just want to say I proved you wrong, and you could do it as well.
That's great, because and talk about where you want to go. You know, where are you going now that you've had the success?
Yeah, so one of the things with us that's difficult is that we have our stores are leased. So we have a 10-year term. And so how do we get a performer that works in a return on an investment? So one of the things has always been where the incentives and the tax credits lied in high cost of energy. And so that has worked, but how do we try to do more stores? How do we go in areas where it's low cost of energy? And, you know, maybe the question is, you know, now that this Helix system is out there, I think we have SunPower has presented something to us that we've been asking for that can help meet our goals, which is to put it on a lot more stores. And we do want to put it on a lot more stores. I think the Helix system, the plug and play, unless you've done a solar system, you don't realize the amount of time and labor is involved in all of the conduit and pulling wires through the conduit, to the slip joints, to the bending of the conduit, the connections of the wires into the lugs, torquing the lugs, marking the lugs, making sure that over time you torque those lugs. Having a plug and play system, I think is a game changer, and I think it's really going to help increase our solar program and put it in and do it in more and more stores.
What about on the software side? What were you trying to solve?
So on the software side, you know, I'm very interested to see that. I have one system in Florence, New Jersey, where we do overgenerate. So it generates 100%, but it is times where it does overgenerate, and then at the end of the year, I have a true-up period where I have to find out from the utility company, you know, what is my savings? And I don't really have anything except for utility bills that shows in and out usage that will then tell me what my wholesale rate would be at the end. But on the software side, with EnergyLink that SunPower has presented, I can physically look at what my savings is. And also, my performers that I had presented to the company, they really only dealt with what is the kWh savings. So it's just on the supply. What about the demand? Never really looked at the demand side. You know, maybe demand was looked at more with battery storage, but solar does have savings on the demand side. There is kW savings. I just haven't had anything tangible that would be able to show me that, but the EnergyLink will now do that, and I think that I'll be able to get more performers approved by showing not only savings on the supply side, but also on the demand side.
And what about multi-facility situations in different states and it's pretty complex. Is this going to help with that?
Certainly. I mean, again, it's going to come down to the return on an investment. And I feel that the fact that the Helix system has reduced the time of installation, it's going to reduce the cost, and therefore the performance will pan out. I really believe that SunPower has partnered with us and understands our business model. Because of our lease terms of only 10 years and sometimes less, they've now really listened to us as far as what it takes for us to achieve our goals.
Yeah, I think what's great and why I'm excited to have you on stage, and so thank you for coming out, is that one of the things we hear is we run an executive network of about 85 companies, their chief sustainability officers in it, and you'll have somebody from Apple talk about what they're doing and somebody from Google, and then somebody else will say, we're not that company. We don't have that we don't have that CEO, and we don't have that kind of margin, frankly, and continued growth. So it's very refreshing to hear a conversation where this is just really about the economics. Makes economic sense for you. You know, what are things that you could share with people that are coming from that perspective? What would you offer as advice to people that are trying to take the path you've taken?
Well, I think, you know, one of the things to look at is, I think a lot of people don't understand there's an SREC market in a couple of states in New Jersey and Massachusetts, and it's a very rich incentive. And I could tell you that if you're looking for a quick payback and a return on investment, those are two great states to go in. But I think overall, in order to make Bed Bath & Beyond's program work, is we needed to partner up with someone that could do a complete turnkey system. I mean, I needed someone that can do due diligence up front, handle the design phase, handle the engineering phase, go in for permits, deal with the interconnection, deal with shutdowns. I mean, there's times you go in shopping centers where there's multiple stores on a transformer, you have to shut down, you have a grocery store, and you have to put them on generator. There's a lot of complexities that go on, and I think Helix will reduce those complexities, and I think partner up with a company with SunPower that has the turnkey system from start to finish, and they'll also helping out us with the operation and maintenance and be able to see where our savings has been great. And I think that it's a no-brainer that the Helix system is going to be the way of the future, and I'm hoping to see a lot more solar being presented out there. And then the other thing I haven't mentioned is that there's these environmental attributes that are so real that I think it's a great thing for the environment. And I guess one thing I like to say personally is that one of the things that I realized of myself that I wasn't doing, I mean, my wife and kids would say to me, "Hey, Dad, why are you running the water while brushing your teeth?" Didn't realize I was doing such a thing. So now I do shut the water off every time I brush my teeth. So I feel like I'm doing something that's helping the environment. So.
Were there any unexpected things that came out of this? For instance, in the stores, did your employees notice? Do they know that you have solar? Does it matter to them?
I got to tell you, when I tell the store managers that there's solar going up on their roof, they are so excited. They want to know more about the solar system than the store sales. I mean, it's kind of infectious to find out they're so interested in knowing, that there's something going up on the roof of their building that's going to save the company money.
So I'm going to ask you the same question. What advice would you give you have a variety, you have people from cities here, you have people from schools, from personal decisions. What advice would you give to somebody who's looking at scale to go solar?
Well, things are changing incredibly rapidly. And, I remember 5 or 6 years ago going to see a utility, and the utility was sort of asked me to go get them a coffee. They didn't take it very seriously at all. Like, are you kidding me? A solar company wants to come see me. And now utilities are very big in utility scale solar because the costs have come down and it's more and more economic. And so what I would say to you is, don't think you know what solar costs or what the prices are, because things have changed quite a bit. And when you optimize a complete system, the numbers that we can hit with the ITC are very compelling compared to wholesale electricity rates. And as Robert mentioned, if you can get a complete system from one company, then you get the whole thing warranted. So it's one-stop shopping, one phone call, one service. It's all comes from one. So technology is changing fast, economics are improving, and then how you buy energy is changing really fast. So the financing, you could get a loan, you can lease it, you can get a PPA, depending on what you want to accomplish. If you're buying a long-lasting system like SunPower, you may want to pay cash because then you get the residual value at the end. So things are changing very fast on the financing side of things that enhance the overall value proposition. So sort of project where things are going to be, consider how the technology is changing, and how it's actually mainstreaming, not just for ground mount, but for also for rooftop. And then keep your eye on software, because the idea in the old days that you just passively paid your energy bill, those days are over. You're going to optimize your energy. You're going to know load. You're going to know your solar generation. You're going to be able to optimize the two. So stay on top of that, because then you can really have control, and then you can really start to say the trade-off of what do I want to spend versus comfort or versus green or carbon emissions. You're going to have total control of that, so keep your eyes on that.
Cool. Well, we're going to have some questions from online, but first I have a little quiz for you guys. We did a survey, and I was just curious to see what sort of adoption rates of this audience. So I have the answer to this question, but I want to know who thinks that people as what's a higher percent? The individuals in the room having solar on their home, or their companies having solar at work? So if you think that you guys as an audience are individuals Have it more than companies, raise your hand. If you think your company in the room has more solar than the individuals, raise your hand. You are a smart group. 26% of the companies represented here have solar installs. And we didn't get into size and all that. And 16% of you have solar at home. So you are well higher than the average.
The 74% that don't have solar, there's a booth right out here at SunPower.
And outside also, you're showing your residential solar outside at the microgrid, so we can hook you up both ways. So sidebar, what do we have coming from online?
Yeah, the first question is for Robert on the retail side of the equation. How do you work through a scenario where the store is in a leased property and you may have to be talking to a building owner? Tom, not sure if you have to deal with that in your business model as well.
Basically on new leases, we do have it in our lease agreement that we are allowed to put solar on the roof. We do still want landlords to take on roof responsibility. And I wish someone would develop a white paper that would say that solar panels do protect the roof. I've put solar panels on TPO, PVC, EPDM built-up roofs, roofs that were in warranty, out of warranty, and today I have no roof leaks on panels that have been installed 5.5 years.
White paper should be done within a week, Robert.
Yes.
Any more questions from online?
Yeah, we're also getting a flurry of activity around energy storage. So for both of you, how do you think about that?
So, storage, I'll say a few comments and turn it to Robert because he's got use examples. And I'm sure you're really interested in that. The storage is like solar was 5 or 10 years ago. It's a little hard to tell. It's just hitting the point where you can get scale and get costs down. And then people say, well, is storage economic? And it's just like solar was 5 or 10 years ago. It depends. It depends on the application. Today, storage can make sense, for example, eliminating demand charges. And so, you can make an economic case to put storage in places like California or New Jersey, among other states in New York, where you can attack the demand charge. There are other applications as well, of course, where energy really is a meaningful part of your business. Then you will want to use storage. It's the combination of them that I think is going to be really interesting going forward. But demand charges in the near term, and I'll turn it to Robert.
Yeah, so we have 4 locations where we're doing storage. I wish we would have done it in one facility in Stockton, California, where we had a large warehouse. And we did put solar, but the issue is that we're on a tariff that is not beneficial to the solar. And in order to get off of it, we should have done battery storage, which would have kept our kW demand down, which would have put us into a different tariff that would have been beneficial to get us additional savings in solar. So I think they should work in hand, definitely provide additional savings.
Great, well that is really our time. Please join me in thanking our panelists here, Tom and Robert. Thank you. Thank you, appreciate it.